Most people, even doctors, overlook this one simple blood marker linked to fatigue. If you're tired of feeling tired, you need to hear this. The number of people who struggle with chronic fatigue is in the millions. But get this, 90% of them have never been diagnosed. Let's see if the criteria sound familiar to you. Decreased activity levels for more than 6 months, with new fatigue not relieved by rest. Post-exertional malaise. Post-exertional means after exercise or physical activity, and malaise means aching or soreness or just feeling gross. Unrefreshing sleep. That one is super common. Problems thinking or concentrating. I hear about this one all the time. And dizziness or fainting when standing, also known as orthostatic intolerance, which happens because your blood pressure drops when you go from seated or lying down to standing. While chronic fatigue has many different triggers, symptoms like these are also linked to a shockingly common root cause that most doctors don't test: low ferritin. But don't take it from me. These are just a few of the hundreds of comments I've gotten from folks who have suffered from low ferritin and fatigue. Chris said, "Yeah, mine is in the single digits, I believe. Sometimes my body feels like 1,000 pounds due to tiredness." Grace said, "Mine came back 8. I didn't know exhaustion could be this bad." At 09 Lil Miss said, "Last year, my ferritin level was 2. I suffer from extreme fatigue and hair loss and realized this may be the cause." At Crazy Cat Lady said, by the way, love that handle, "My hair had been falling out for a year, dry skin, and extremely tired. I got my ferritin levels back, and they are 4. Here's another crucial connection. Chronic fatigue affects more women than men, and women are also much more likely to suffer from low ferritin than men. Coincidence? I think not. More on why in a minute. First, you need to understand what ferritin is, what it does in the body, and how it causes long-standing fatigue. Then I'll explain why low ferritin happens in the first place, and how you can fix it using functional medicine strategies. Ferritin is a protein that stores iron in your cells, safely transports it in the blood, and releases it when your body needs more iron to do important things like make your red blood cells and bind active thyroid hormone to receptors. We need ferritin because while iron is a super helpful micronutrient for your body, free iron is actually toxic to your cells, so it needs to be bound up or buffered when it's stored. That's ferritin's job, to keep a reserve of iron that's ready to go when your body needs it without exposing your cells to harmful free iron. When you have adequate iron in your blood, but not enough ferritin, we call it latent iron depletion, or sometimes iron deficiency without anemia. So when we measure your levels of ferritin in the blood plasma, we get a sense for how much of a backup stash of iron your body has at its disposal, as opposed to only measuring iron in your blood directly, which is more common than measuring ferritin. Even if your iron blood test comes back within the normal range, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have enough reserve iron, stored as ferritin, to maintain all the functions of your body that require it. Given that ferritin is the most sensitive biomarker for assessing iron stores, it's frustrating that most doctors don't bother to check it, even when their patients have common symptoms of low ferritin, like chronic fatigue. If you have fatigue, it's a good idea to test your ferritin levels, along with other markers like iron and iron saturation. Most of the time, you can ask your primary care provider to order this test for you, especially if you tell them that you're feeling fatigued or you have other symptoms associated with low iron levels like hair loss, brain fog, or weakness. But be sure to specifically mention ferritin. Otherwise, you might just end up with only an iron test. If you'd like to order your own ferritin blood test, you may be able to do so through my website. I'll put a link in the video description for more info about this option. I like to see optimized ferritin levels of 70 to 300 micrograms per liter for males and 70 to 150 for females, unless they have thyroid disease, in which case that bottom number goes up to a minimum of 100 micrograms per liter. You might be wondering how your ferritin got so low in the first place. Well, there are many causes of low ferritin. Anything involving significant blood loss can deplete iron reserves, including menstruation, pregnancy, gastrointestinal bleeding, and even certain endurance activities like marathon running. This is one of the reasons that women struggle with low ferritin more often than men, because they lose so much iron every month. Problems with iron absorption from the gut can also result in low ferritin, including H. pylori, parasites, low stomach acid, and overall dysbiosis. By the way, about 60% of the population has H. pylori, and it's very contagious. So just because you don't have stomach ulcers doesn't mean your fatigue isn't being caused by this disruptive bacteria. And of course, if you're not eating enough foods containing bioavailable iron, particularly if you eat a lot of ultra-processed foods or you avoid animal products, you could also end up with low ferritin. I explain the root causes of low ferritin in much more detail in another video, which I will queue up for you to watch next. But at this point, I think it's more important to talk about why low ferritin causes fatigue. And then we can focus on how to fix it so you can feel more energetic, motivated, and productive. There are likely additional mechanisms underlying the connection between chronic fatigue and low ferritin, but the data points to two main processes. First, a decrease in ferritin decreases the ability of your body's systems and tissues to absorb oxygen. Remember that ferritin represents your backup stash of iron, and iron is a crucial component of hemoglobin, which allows your red blood cells to transport oxygen from your lungs to the rest of your body. And less oxygen means less optimal function. For example, if your muscles have a decreased ability to absorb oxygen, it can lead to an increased cardiovascular load, which then causes the feeling of fatigue. When people talk about their limbs feeling heavy or weak due to fatigue, I think of less than optimal tissue oxygenation, potentially secondary to low iron reserves. Iron is also involved in the production of cellular energy in the mitochondria, specifically a chemical cascade called the respiratory chain. Your mitochondria are the powerhouses of your cells because they turn the food you eat into fuel by creating ATP. ATP is the energy currency of the cell. When your body needs to perform a function, your cells spend ATP to make it happen. So if your mitochondria can't make optimal amounts of cellular energy, then you can run low on ATP, which impacts just about every function of the body, especially the heart, liver, and brain. These organs have thousands of mitochondria because they use so much energy to function. It's not difficult to imagine what it feels like when your brain doesn't have optimal ATP to work with. Symptoms like depression, mental sluggishness, and of course, fatigue are a few that immediately come to mind. And severe loss of mitochondrial function is linked to Parkinson's, heart disease, diabetes, and cancer, as well as aging. It's hopefully becoming clear that chronic fatigue may be the least of your worries when it comes to long-standing low ferritin. So once you've done a blood test and found suboptimal ferritin levels, what can you do about it? If you're just trying to prevent low ferritin, increasing iron-rich foods in your diet can be helpful. But if you have low levels, you'll likely need a concentrated, high-quality, absorbable iron supplement in addition to increased dietary iron. My recommended ferritin-boosting product has a few distinct qualities. It contains a chelated form of iron, which makes it easier to absorb and less likely to cause digestive upset. It also contains several cofactors, specifically other micronutrients that are required for proper utilization of iron by the body, like methylated B vitamins. And it's quality assured, third-party tested, to ensure that the ingredients listed on the bottle match what's in the tablet. Unfortunately, that's not the case for every product on the internet or supplement shelf. If you've taken iron supplements before and you haven't gotten results, give my favorite a try. You'll find details about my approved supplement in the free checklist, and I'll even include a link where you can order it at a really nice discount. Because an acidic environment is best for absorbing iron, it can be useful to take a supplement with digestive enzymes and betaine HCl to create an ideal gastric environment for absorbing iron. This is a particularly helpful strategy if you suspect that you have H. pylori or other microbiome imbalances like SIBO or parasites that are reducing your iron absorption. If you want to know for sure, the best test is an at-home functional stool analysis. It's super comprehensive and includes extra helpful details about H. pylori, like virulence factors and antibiotic resistance genes. We help people all over the world get access to this test kit. So be sure to check out the link in the video description for more info and to order one for yourself. I'll even help you interpret the results. Another strategy that I find helpful for raising particularly stubborn low ferritin is to support specific strains of bacteria in the gut. I think of these friendly bugs as micronutrient doormen because they help ease iron's entry through the intestinal wall. One of the specific strains that's been found to boost ferritin is Lactobacillus plantarum. One study found that a probiotic containing this strain increased iron absorption by 50%. Taking vitamin C at the same time as your iron also helps increase its absorption. Like I mentioned, you'll find links to all of these suggested supplements for boosting ferritin in my free ferritin boosting checklist. You can grab your copy at the link in the video description. It does take some time and persistence to raise low ferritin, especially if you're a menstruating female. So remember to be patient with yourself. Carrie said, I've been on iron for a few months and the fatigue is very slowly improving. I know I have a long road ahead of me, but I'm determined to get there. And Rainbow Connected said, I'd struggled with all the symptoms of anemia as well as treatment-resistant PTSD for years. No one checked ferritin. I felt better very quickly upon starting iron, but it takes ages to build up the level. It's terrible that people suffer for years when they don't have to. I sure agree with that, which is why I'm so glad you're watching this video, because now you have the tools you need to investigate low ferritin as a root cause of your fatigue and options for finally doing something about it. Be sure to check out the links in the video description for all the free resources and discounts that I mentioned in the video, including my favorite supplements for boosting low ferritin. I think you'll find them really helpful. And thanks so much for being here, for supporting my channel with your likes and subscribes, and for spreading the word about the work I'm doing. I appreciate it more than you know. We'll see you in the next video.